August 6th, 1945. High above the clouds, a lone B-29 bomber cuts through the morning sky over Japan. And inside its belly lies humanity's most terrifying creation. A weapon that will vaporize an entire city in seconds and end the deadliest war in human history. The aircraft was called Enola Gay, and the weapon was an atomic bomb, nicknamed Little Boy. When that bomb exploded over Hiroshima, it set in motion the end of World War II. Everyone knows this story. What most people don't know is that the bomb wasn't the most revolutionary technology aboard that aircraft. Hidden inside the bomber was something that would quietly reshape your daily life. While the world watched nuclear explosions, this innovation was already building the foundation for smartphones, the internet, and modern computing. This technology was working in 1944, decades before anything similar appeared in civilian life. The military kept it secret so long that most people still don't know this story. The B-29 Superfortress shouldn't have worked when Boeing first designed it. A bomber weighing 140,000 pounds that could cruise at 350 miles per hour while flying 6 miles above the Earth. Up there, the air is so thin you'd pass out without oxygen. Boeing pressurized the entire crew area. 11 airmen could work comfortably in what was basically a flying space capsule. Compare that to older bombers. B-17 gunners sat in freezing turrets where temperatures dropped below zero and had to wear heavy jackets and oxygen masks just to survive. The B-29 was different. But this created a problem. Flying that fast and high meant enemy fighters approached like rockets. Human gunners couldn't swing those heavy turrets fast enough to track targets. The G-forces would crush anyone trying to manually aim guns during high-speed combat. Boeing created something radical for 1944. Remove gunners from the turrets. Operators would sit safely inside the cabin and control the guns remotely. Every time those massive engines started, something incredible came alive in the B-29's belly. 4 gun turrets packed with twin 50-caliber machine guns stood ready. Each gun could fire 750 rounds per minute. No human would ever touch these weapons during combat. 5 gunners sat at stations throughout the aircraft that looked like submarine periscopes. They controlled those deadly turrets through electrical signals and mechanical systems that had never been tried before. Any gunner could take control of any turret. If enemy fire knocked out one position, another guy could instantly take over. This wasn't remote controlled like your TV. This was machine thinking and reacting faster than humans could. The central fire control system turned the B-29 into something completely new. Instead of separate guns doing their own thing, everything worked together. Each gunner looked through what Boeing called a computing gun sight. These were actually analog computers using electrical switches called relays. They calculated faster than the mechanical computers of that era. The system automatically figured out bullet drop, wind drift, target speed, and lead, where an enemy fighter would be when bullets arrived. It tracked enemy planes with gyroscopes while adjusting for the bomber's movement. When a gunner spotted a target, the computer instantly calculated everything needed to hit it. This was 1944. Most families gathered around radios for entertainment. People used slide rules for complex math. The B-29 was carrying computers solving advanced equations while being shot at. Building this system was only half the battle. Training crews to use it was completely different. Regular bomber gunners learned to aim manually. They developed instincts based on experience. B-29 gunners had to learn something that didn't exist: how to work with a computer partner. The training was intense. Future CFC specialists took 16-week courses that included engineering and trigonometry. These weren't just gunners anymore. They were becoming the world's first computer operators. Gunners trained at places like Laredo, Texas, learning not just how to shoot, but how to trust machines to do the aiming. They had to forget everything they thought they knew about gunnery. Many experienced gunners struggled with this. They wanted to manually adjust their aim based on their instincts. But the system worked best when they simply pointed at targets and let the computers handle the rest. This created the first generation of human-computer warfare teams. Boeing's engineers faced an impossible deadline with technology that didn't exist yet. The B-29 program cost $3 billion. That was more than the Manhattan Project's $1.9 billion. They needed a system that could think faster than humans, calculate complex paths instantly, and coordinate multiple weapons across the entire aircraft. What they built was 30 years ahead of its time. Secret teams worked around the clock, solving problems nobody had ever faced. These engineers didn't realize they'd just invented the digital age. They were focused on keeping bomber crews alive. They accidentally built the future. Those computing gun sights contained ideas that would later create video games, smartphone cameras, and fighter jet targeting systems. The numbers tell an incredible story. In 13 months from August 1944 to August 1945, B-29s achieved 914 victories against enemy aircraft, with only 72 losses over 31,000 sorties. The system gave gunners an effective range of 900 yards, 50% farther than manual guns, and over twice the range of most enemy fighters' weapons. This wasn't just an improvement. This was a revolution in aerial combat. Japanese pilots quickly learned to fear B-29s. The superfortress could hit them before they could even get close enough to return fire effectively. Some crews disobeyed orders to remove guns during low-level missions, keeping 100 rounds just in case. Gunners shot down night fighters by targeting their muzzle blasts. Even in pitch darkness, the system worked. Enemy pilots knew they were facing something unprecedented. Bombers that could defend themselves better than fighter escorts. The atomic bomb grabbed headlines, but military leaders knew they had something bigger. Nuclear weapons needed massive facilities and rare materials that only superpowers could afford. The fire control technology was different. It could be shrunk down, mass-produced, and used for thousands of civilian applications. Manufacturing, transportation, communication. Everything could be revolutionized. So they locked it away. This technology sat in classified files for 30 years. The engineers who built it were sworn to secrecy. Many even died without ever telling their families what they'd accomplished. This secrecy probably set back technology by a decade. Civilian engineers struggled to invent basic computers, while the answers sat in cabinets nobody could open. Inside each gun sight sat mechanical gyroscopes that could sense the aircraft's movement in all directions, calculate complex paths while everything moved, and adjust gun aim faster than humans could blink. Your smartphone uses the exact same principles. Every time you rotate your phone and the screen flips, you use technology that first flew over the Pacific 75 years ago. Smooth camera video, gyroscopic stabilization. Gaming that responds to tilting, pure gyroscope tech. What once needed a device the size of a briefcase and weighing 50 pounds now fits on a chip smaller than your fingernail. But the basic physics? Solved by engineers in 1940s suits. Your pocket technology traces directly back to a bomber flying through enemy skies when your grandparents were young. The fire control system did something never attempted: real-time data sharing between multiple computers scattered throughout a moving aircraft. Gunner stations had to instantly communicate with turret motors, computers, targeting systems, and backup stations. Information flowed through the aircraft at impossible speeds for 1944. Every split second, data about targets, aircraft movement, wind, and firing solutions moved between multiple computing nodes. The B-29's electrical system was basically a primitive computer network. It had backup pathways, automatic switching, and error correction. If enemy fire cut one line, the system automatically rerouted through others. That's precisely how the internet works today. These engineers solved networking problems that wouldn't come up again until ARPANET in the 1960s. The B-29 wasn't just carrying bombs. It was carrying the blueprint for our connected world. Before room-sized computers filled with vacuum tubes, before anyone dreamed of transistors, the B-29 solved complex math while flying through enemy fire at 300 miles per hour. The aircraft's analog computers used relays, mechanical parts, and electrical circuits to calculate firing solutions instantly. They tracked multiple targets, compensated for aircraft movement in 3 dimensions, and predicted where targets would go, all with precisely machined metal parts. These systems were incredibly reliable. They worked in sub-zero cold, handled massive G-forces, and kept calculating while enemy bullets tore holes through the aircraft. These mechanical computers often worked better than the electronic computers that replaced them decades later. Vacuum tube computers in the 1950s failed constantly. These mechanical marvels kept working with half the plane shot away. Engineers working on early electronic computers looked back at B-29 systems with amazement. They'd achieved with gears and relays what took rooms full of vacuum tubes, and they'd done it 20 years earlier. The upper gunner acted as the quarterback, coordinating the actions of all gunners during combat. This wasn't just about technology, it was about creating new forms of teamwork. Gunners could control multiple turrets simultaneously. The bombardier could operate upper and lower forward turrets during frontal attacks. Side gunners could control lower turrets and even the tail gun when needed. This flexibility created something unprecedented, a weapon system that could adapt and redistribute firepower based on the tactical situation. 5 human operators managing 5 turrets through electronic networks, making split-second decisions about resource allocation while under enemy fire. It was the first example of human-machine teaming that would later define everything from air traffic control to modern military operations. The human element wasn't replaced by computers, they amplified it. Gunners became conductors of an electronic orchestra, coordinating deadly symphonies of defensive fire. The computing gun sight did more than point guns, it predicted the future. By analyzing target movements, the system would tell where an enemy fighter would be seconds before it got there. In consequence, this became the foundation for guided missiles, smart bombs, and modern targeting systems. Military drones use these same principles today, but it spread beyond weapons. Your phone's camera focusing on moving subjects, predictive algorithms. Your car's collision system calculating where other vehicles will be. The same math was first used in Japan. Video games that automatically calculate aim and bullet drop. Pure B-29 technology, adapted for entertainment. The B-29 taught machines to predict the future. That lesson has been shaping technology ever since. The connection between B-29 fire control and modern gaming isn't coincidental. It's direct technological inheritance. When the war ended, those brilliant engineers went to work for electronics companies during the post-war boom. They brought knowledge of real-time tracking, predictive targeting, and human-machine interfaces. Companies like Bell Labs suddenly had engineers who understood concepts universities wouldn't teach for another decade. These former aircraft designers became the founders of computer gaming. Though they never imagined that's what they were creating. That smooth tracking when you move a controller? It traces back to interface principles developed for B-29 gunners. Modern VR systems, tracking your movement and predicting where you'll look, refined versions of the same tech that kept turrets on target. The gaming industry owes everything to anonymous engineers who solved impossible problems while literally under fire. After the war, the Central Fire Control System found new applications. In 1946, PT-620, a World War II patrol boat, was fitted with experimental B-29 gun turrets controlled by the same technology. The A-26 bomber later adopted the same Central Fire Control System, showing how the technology began spreading to other aircraft. But these were just the beginning. The real influence was invisible, in the minds of engineers who had learned to think differently about human-machine interaction. Those early CFC specialists pioneered computer-controlled systems throughout the Cold War. They designed missile guidance systems, radar networks, and early computer installations. The knowledge didn't disappear. It went underground, classified, and compartmentalized, but still flowing through the military-industrial complex that would eventually birth Silicon Valley. When the last B-29 retired in the 1960s, something became clear. Its fire control technology was still more advanced than most civilian computers. Tech that flew combat missions in the 1940s remained ahead of what universities used 20 years later. Real-time processing, multiple data streams, remote device control. None of this appeared in consumer tech until the 1980s. Even during the Korean War, facing advanced MiG-15 jets, the system worked. B-29 gunners shot down 16 MiGs, despite the jet's superior speed. Modern self-driving cars are now achieving the real-time processing and predictive responses that B-29 systems did 75 years ago. Same math, different implementation. The B-29 wasn't just ahead of its time, it was decades ahead. What most people don't realize is that this technological revolution was built by ordinary Americans working extraordinary hours under impossible pressure. General Electric competed against Bendix, Sperry, and Westinghouse for the fire control contract. When GE won, they had to solve problems that had never been solved before. The computer itself, which was the size of a suitcase by the way, but weighed more than 50 pounds, contained several separate but interconnected calculating units within the same chassis. Think about that for a moment. And this is 1944, by the way. While the rest of the world was still figuring out room-sized machines, these engineers created portable computing power. Perhaps the greatest testament to the B-29's revolutionary technology came from an unexpected source: America's greatest enemy. When 3 B-29s made emergency landings in Soviet territory during World War II, Stalin ordered his engineers to reverse engineer every component. The decision to copy the B-29 proved to be a wise move for the Soviet Union. The Tu-4 moved Soviet aviation technology to a new Western level. Using B-29s, which made emergency landings in the Soviet territory, Tupolev engineers built a clone of the B-29. With its first flight in May of 1947, a total of 847 Tu-4s were reportedly built when production ended in 1952. The Soviets didn't just copy the airframe, they copied everything, including the Central Fire Control System. They knew this wasn't just about building bombers. This was about leapfrogging decades of technological development. The Tu-4 opened the USSR to equip its aircraft with high-altitude engines, turbochargers, pressurized cabins, onboard radio location, navigation and bombing systems, remote-controlled weapon systems, new alloys, and synthetic materials. You know you've created something special when your enemy steals your technology and builds 847 copies. The B-29's fire control system was so advanced that it remained cutting-edge well into the jet age. But even the most revolutionary technology eventually meets its match. During the Korean War, something happened that changed everything. As of 1951, The Soviet MiG-15, a fighter jet, made up the North Korean Air Force ranks. An aircraft from a former generation, the B-29 was at a disadvantage against the fighter's speed. On April 12th, around 30 MiG-15 ambushed an escorted formation of the B-29, taking down 3 of them, while damaging another 7. Little could they do to defend themselves on a date that became known as Black Thursday. The MiG-15 was simply too fast. The B-29's computers could calculate where an enemy fighter would be, but MiGs moved so quickly that even perfect predictions couldn't compensate for the speed differential. This wasn't a technology failure, it was evolution in action. The B-29's fire control system had been so successful that it forced the development of even faster, more advanced aircraft. Even in obsolescence, the B-29 was driving innovation forward. While everyone watched mushroom clouds, a quieter revolution happened inside bomber electronics. The B-29's fire control made machines think faster than humans, predict movements, and coordinate complex operations automatically. The core principles became the foundation for virtually every modern technology you use. Your phone, this video, the streaming service delivering it. Everything connects to innovations first tested in Pacific combat. Most engineers who built this never knew they were creating the digital age blueprint. They just wanted to keep bomber crews alive. They accidentally built tomorrow.
If this story surprised you, share it with someone who loves hidden history. Hit subscribe for more stories about secret innovations that shaped our world.